funny visual, but you have to wonder, did we just kill Boimler? Because he's saying, I am excretus, as in poop.
God dang it! Who left that hatch open?
I, excretus. No, wait, that's wrong. I, Mark. You, viewer. This is Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 8, I, excretus. This episode, frighteningly, is a return to the bad old days of Season 2 for me. We're past the high water mark of 7, and we're getting back into gag reels and terrifying disregard for ethics. It's rich to say that about a comedy, right? What is billed as a comedy, but this is also a Star Trek comedy, okay? When you call yourself Star Trek, certain things have to change. You can't just rework a script from Family Guy and turn it into Star Trek. It doesn't work like that. That's a vast oversimplification of it, but suffice it to say, this episode, not as good as the previous one, had a few laughs, but at the expense of somebody, which made me feel bad. This episode is about a returning species from the animated series. This type of alien, or person I should say, can split their body in 3. The head, the torso, and the legs can move around independently. And not really anything funny happens with it. They kind of waste that opportunity in this episode. The Starfleet drill instructor that's been tasked with testing the readiness of the Cerritos crew is one of these aliens who can split their body in 3, and they don't really take advantage of it. I was hoping one of the characters would steal her head and hide it or something, but no such luck. It's mostly just a visual thing. You'd think something funny would happen with it, but no. This drill instructor has arrived on the Cerritos in order to test the crew's capabilities with dealing with various types of missions. These missions include, curiously, names of past episodes, like Naked Time. You can see the drill instructor talking about the different tests they're going to undertake, and some of them are directly riffed from past episodes of Star Trek, which is odd, like Chain of Command, Naked Time, and then of course there's Kobayashi Maru on there, which I don't remember if it was an actual episode title, but we all know what that is. Do I need to explain it? We've all done it. We've all taken the test. If you're in this chair right now, like I am, you've taken the test, and you probably failed, or you cheated. But, so Boimler, Mariner, Rutherford, and Tendi are all excited. Woo, let's go. We're going to do awesome in these tests. Wait a minute, no we don't. Mariner gets a Wild West themed simulation. What is essentially a holodeck program. Boimler gets a Borg encounter. Tendi gets an ethics challenging encounter with a Klingon who wants to die, a la Worf getting a strange blue barrel dropped on him. And Rutherford gets the Star Trek II Wrath of Khan warp core problem, where he needs to open the door to go into a chamber and put the cap over the exploding warp vent thing, whatever it was. Beautifully realized, by the way, in this episode. Visuals were a feast. I'll get into that in a moment. So, they're trying to pass these tests, and they all do terrible, as you'd expect. Mariner, in a flight of fancy, thinks she's going to do great. She gets stompled by a horse. Rutherford gets the Cerritos blown up. But it's not the Cerritos, actually. What am I talking about? It was actually the Enterprise. He blows up the Enterprise from Wrath of Khan. Very cool. Not so cool for Rutherford because he gets it blown up, because he doesn't do a good job, we'll say, opening the door to fix the Wrath of Khan problem. And Tendi has to deal with a Klingon who hurts himself trying to pick up a peanut. A hilarious take on Worf wanting to die after having a barrel land on him. Kind of silly. But this Klingon, possibly the best scene. The Klingon wants to die, and Tendi fails. She accidentally saves him. And then the other doctors are looking at him, and they ask for time of life. And they're looking at it, dang, there's nothing we could do. Time of life, 0900. Damn. We lost him. Which means he's alive. Haha. Now, most interestingly, Boimler's encounter is with the Borg. And he's basically playing through an encounter with a Borg cube. He's stuck on it and he has to escape. He does it, gets a bad score, but then he wants to repeat the test. And as long as you don't fail, here's the thing, as long as you don't fail, you can keep doing the test. The score is not locked in until you fail, which is interesting. But so what he's essentially speedrunning this simulation, and he's playing it over and over and over again, trying to get a perfect score, and he gets very close to 100. In fact, that's beside the point. This episode, the A, B, C plot, there really is none of them. It's all just one plot essentially, because they're all taking part in the simulation. Lower decks, upper decks, captains, whatever. The senior officers get traded positions with the lower deck officers, right? So that's an interesting way to do an examination for your crew. Get everybody up to speed on what everybody's doing on the ship, boost morale. It's a good idea. We should adopt it here. And it turns out that the captain and the senior crew have an easy time basically doing the lower deck work, and they like it. And then the lower deckers get an appreciation for what the senior officers do. It gave me the warm and fuzzy feeling. That was the best part of this episode. However, Mariner and the captain get to talking, and they realize he did such a horrible job in the joint exercise because they got into a fight. Mariner and her mother got into a fight and accidentally crashed the Cerritos into the doors of Space Dock when they were supposed to be going slower. I thought Space Dock computers would take control of ship thrusters and guide it out automatically. I thought maybe that couldn't happen, especially in the day and age that Lower Decks takes place, but it's no biggie. It was funny. They crash the Cerritos in the simulation, and womp womp, they all fail. They don't even fail, they get incomplete, which is worse than failing, which I believe is their exact words. Mariner and the captain are talking, and they realize that, hey, maybe this test wasn't about scores. Maybe it wasn't about passing. Maybe the real test all along was learning to work together. And maybe learning that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, you know? And I thought, wow, if that was the message of this episode, this is pretty cool. And they had to ruin it, because they go talk to the drill instructor, and basically you're saying, we figured out what this test is about. It's about teamwork. And she says, no, you're failing. Guess what? We're going to reassign the entire crew. You're getting mothballed, etc., etc. And she reveals that she needed to find failures in order to keep her job with Starfleet, which is a true thing. I know examinations and the people who put these things together, when they design them, they're designing to have a certain percentage failure. This is true, by the way, in the real world. They want to see a certain amount of failure so that they know there's a point in doing the examination. If everybody's passing, then that means it's too easy. If everybody's failing, that means it's too hard. So they do need a certain amount of failure. And if everybody's doing too good of a job, then you get a really hard exam. See how that works? So this person, justifying her own job, has decided essentially that she was going to fail the Cerritos anyway, and that a lot of the simulations were rigged. Which is what I was thinking at the beginning, because if you watch these simulations, they don't allow for a lot of creativity, and the path to success seems to be very narrow. Many things that Mariner tried that were intuitive and outside the box ended up with her hitting a force field and failing, which sounds like it's rigged, and it was. But then, for whatever reason, this is where the episode goes off the rails. For whatever reason, it turns out Boimler is still taking the exam. He's been repeating the same test over and over and over again without failing, trying to go for 100. And they contact him via communicator and basically say, okay, keep taking the test. That way our scores won't get locked in and we won't fail the Cerritos. So I guess the entire ship can fail instead of just certain officers. But they want him to keep taking the test over and over again. And then meanwhile, they have to distract the instructor, the drill instructor. And they distract the drill instructor by putting the Cerritos in terrifying situations. To me, look like life and death situations for the crew. They meet crystalline entities, and they get very near to a black hole. Just to scare the drill instructor? What was scaring her going to do? Are they trying to... Why would you do that? This person has been sent on official business from Starfleet, and your instinct is to almost kill her by putting the Cerritos and everybody on it in horrifically dangerous situations. I was waiting for a psych moment, say psych right now. And it turned out that the entire Cerritos was in an even larger holodeck or something, and that they were using that to trick the drill instructor, but they weren't. From what I could gather, they really did put the Cerritos in these dangerous situations. Just to scare the drill instructor. Just to scare the health inspector. And for what purpose? Boimler's still taking the test. And then at the very end, he finishes the test when all this is going on, and he's totally mind-melted by the Borg, because he's taken the Borg test now thousands of times, probably suffered extreme brain damage from it. That can't be healthy, getting assimilated by the Borg in a holodeck over and over and over again. And he comes out of the holodeck simulation pod going, I am excretus of Borg. I will assimilate you. Oh. And the blood is drained from his face, and he looks totally psychotic. Funny visual, but you have to wonder, did we just kill Boimler? Because he's saying, I am excretus, as in poop. He comes out of the test getting a very bad score, and the whole crew technically failed. But then we learn that the drill instructor quit her job due to on-the-job stress. Are we supposed to feel good about that? Very, very strange. Mixed messaging. Mixed on the tone. Mixed on the message. Mixed on your ethics. Kind of funny. But the confusion wasn't worth the few laughs it had. Okay? Callbacks to previous episodes. Calls back to TNG, the animated series. I won't get into it here. It's not a big deal. You can imagine in your mind's eye what a Borg encounter would be like, right? We all can. I can from having watched TNG. I haven't experienced it here myself, mostly because we haven't met the Borg yet. Unless you count that one time Archer found a Borg sphere on Earth, and then it got away. Remember that? That was weird. It's on the logbooks here. I don't know why anyone doesn't really bring that up, though. People just kind of read it and immediately forget about it, and then we don't talk about it for a few hundred years. But it's there. It happened. So, Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 8, I Excretus. Story bad. Visuals, pretty good. We get a lot of beautiful shots of the Cerritos, and we get a shot of the Enterprise, the refit Constitution class. It's on screen for a brief moment before it explodes, and we get to see inside engineering of the Enterprise, beautifully realized, and we get complete with the old uniforms, the old monster maroons, as they call them. because they're so big and bulky and they're maroon colored, kind of like red, you know? I never really liked them that much. I know they're a fan favorite, okay? But they're not for me, alright? They're a little bit too big, and it looks like you'd be sweating to death wearing it, just gonna say. And we see crystalline entities, we see the Cerritos getting attacked by them, and we get to see a cool rendition of a black hole. What's there not to love? Not the best looking episode so far, but pretty good. I'd say that I was going to give this episode a 5, but the visuals alone bring this up to a 0.5. We do get to see Boimler in a hollow simulation, by the way, be assimilated by the Borg and become excretus, complete with the red light coming out of the side of his face, which was an interesting visual. So just visuals alone is going to give this an extra 0.5. So it's about on the level of the first episode. I think it's better than the first one. I can't remember the scores I gave them all. Honestly, numerical scores don't really mean that much to me. And whenever I'm done with a season or a series, I like to look back at it holistically. And sometimes I change my mind about past episodes. But as it stands right now, I feel that the first episode is the worst one, which is sad. You don't want to start with the worst episode. However, the first episode of Season 1 was bad too. So is that a trend with Lower Decks? Starting off bad and then getting better? Hopefully. This episode is not my favorite so far. The previous episode, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, is my favorite. Second favorite would be Keishan, His Eyes Open, I believe it was called. You know, the one with the museum. And the worst ones were the space station one, where they're driving around a wheeled vehicle on a space station, terrorizing the crew, and Strange Energies, the first one. Those two are the worst, and Pleasant Fountains Lie and Keishan are the two best ones. I will say, in this episode, we have no specific development between Mariner and Boimler, no good development between Tendi and Rutherford, and no good development just singularly on Rutherford's front. I think Rutherford is becoming the forgotten character. He's becoming the wheel that came off the shopping cart. I think he's totally gone now. Remember when Rutherford had programs downloaded into his prosthetic eye that would tell him how to do like certain things, and he could like fight Borg, and he was like this amazing martial artist, and he had all these kinds of strange abilities from that. And now it's gone, or it's totally wiped or something, so why have it? He never seems to use it for anything cool. Geordi's eyepiece did all kinds of fun things. You know, his visor, his visual implant sensory organ replacement, something like that. Did all kinds of funny stuff. Not so much with Rutherford, the forgotten character. Sad. Mariner is as annoying as you'd expect her to be in this episode. Boimler is on fire. The last few episodes he's been doing good. He hasn't been getting crapped on as much. He's been performing, and he's been congratulated on multiple occasions in this season and in the last few episodes. I have to say I'm very impressed by that. And Boimler, on his first attempt on the Borg simulation drill, he got a very good score on his first try. And then he kept getting better and better and better because he's actually that skilled. And as soon as that simulation started, he turned into an action hero. Where's that Boimler in reality? Bit of like a Barclay effect. Like he's scared around people, but when he's alone in the holodeck, he can do fine. You know? Maybe? You know Reg Barclay. Broccoli. Remember the Brockster? Of course you do. Yeah. Boimler was cool. And I remember having an auditory exclamation of pride, happiness, and fulfillment when he was kicking ass in this Borg program. And I think I even clapped a little. I did maybe like a one clap, like a little golf clap. Well done, Boimler. Well done, visual designers, for this episode. I think we've seen a shot of the Cerritos in this episode that was more detailed than any other shot we've seen so far. I think we may have switched the 3D model for the Cerritos. I notice these things, but I don't know if I'm just imagining it, or if we always had these two models, like maybe one model was a faraway model that was less detailed, and then this model is a close-up model that's more detailed. But I thought I saw the Bassard collectors on the Cerritos doing something, moving around in this episode. Maybe I'm just imagining things. This has been Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 8, I Excretus. 5.5? Yeah, okay. 5.5. Maybe that's a little generous. Maybe it's a little harsh. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time looking at everyone else's score to try to get a consolidated opinion on this, and then morph my opinion based on that. I'm going to go with my instinct on this one, reserving fully the right to change it later on. I mean, these things aren't set in stone. Overall, the season, we're 8 episodes in. I believe it's a 10-episode season. Past the halfway mark, as it were. I'm willing to say this season's better than last one. Distinctively. I Excretus. I'm excreting this video onto YouTube. And I hope you excrete a view into it. This has been Lieutenant Mark. I'm about to go away now. And I'll see you all in about a week. Were you waiting for something else? There's nothing else at the end of this video.